Before he became the most hated man in Accra, Chief Kofi Mensah had already died once. It happened on the TMA motorway 4 years ago, in a crumple of white metal and shattered glass. But on a humid Tuesday morning, standing over a tattered chalk drawing on the sidewalk, he found out that the ghost of his heart was still capable of bleeding. The crowd parted like the Red Sea for the billionaire's rage. Kofi Mensah, a man whose 3 black SUVs and Italian suits made him a demigod in the cantonment's district, descended upon a child. His fists closed around the filthy collar of a 10-year-old boy. He hoisted the child until their faces were inches apart, the boy's bare toes scraping the concrete. "Street rats," Kofi screamed, spittle flying. "Do not deface my towers." With a vicious tug, he tore the drawing from the ground. The crowd, suited bankers and hawkers alike, laughed as the boy, a skeletal creature named Dub, stumbled backward and slammed onto his spine. Security guards folded their arms like sentinels at a coliseum, watching the spectacle as if it were prime-time entertainment. Then the billionaire looked down. The chalk drawing was smeared, partially crushed beneath his custom leather shoe. But it was still visible. It was a face. A woman's face. High cheekbones. A soft, knowing smile. And a tiny, faint scar. Barely a whisper of a line, above the left eyebrow. Kofi Mensah went completely still. The rage drained from his fists. His mouth fell open. The sound of the laughing market faded into the static of his own rushing blood. It was his dead daughter's face. Every single detail was perfect. The exact tilt of her jaw. The way her lips curled higher on the left. That scar. That specific scar. Nobody outside the family had ever known about it. His daughter, Ada, had covered it with makeup every single day. He had burned every photograph that showed it. Kofi owned the tallest commercial towers in the district. He had more money than most Ghanaians could count in a lifetime. But 4 years ago his only daughter, Ada, had died in a car crash. And something inside Kofi had died right there with her. He stopped laughing. He stopped caring about anything with a heartbeat. He poured himself into glass and steel, because buildings did not die on you. Buildings did not leave you standing at a funeral with a white rose and a heart full of unanswerable questions. But this boy, this animal he had just thrown to the ground, had drawn the scar. The boy's name was Dub. He was 10 years old. He had no shoes, and his shirt was missing a sleeve. He had been sleeping under the overpass for 2 years, surviving on leftovers from chop bars and the charity of a market woman named Enichi. Dub never begged. He never stole. His only possession was a wooden pencil stub, tucked behind his right ear like a talisman. For the next 3 nights, Kofi could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that chalk face staring up from the concrete. How? He told himself it was a coincidence. Maybe the boy saw a photograph. But the scar? That scar was never in any photograph. It was only in the memory of his fingers when he used to brush Ada's bangs away from her forehead. That question burned inside Kofi's chest like a hot coal he could not swallow. While Kofi paced his empty mansion in East Legon, Dub was hiding behind a generator house in Nima, his ribs aching from the guards' kicks. His chalk was gone, crushed under a boot heel. But the face of the kind woman never left his mind. She was the only adult who had ever treated him like a human. She used to come to the overpass every Saturday. She sat on the dirty ground with the street children. She laughed with them. She once found Dub drawing her face on a piece of cardboard with a burned stick. "You have a gift," she had told him, pressing the pencil into his hand. "Straight from God. Keep this. One day, your art will change everything." Then she disappeared. Dub did not know she was a billionaire's daughter. He did not know she drove a white Range Rover. All he knew was that she had been kind to him. And he missed her more than he missed the mother he never knew. So he drew her. Over and over. He drew the scar because to him it was not a flaw. It was proof that even beautiful people carried marks, which made him feel less ashamed of his own. On the 4th day, hunger pushed Dub out of hiding. He crept to a motor park near Kwame Nkrumah Circle and found a broken piece of white chalk. He began drawing portraits for passengers waiting for Tratros. People dropped small coins. For a few hours he felt safe. But then Ina's boys appeared. Ina was Kofi's head of security, a man with a thick neck and a thicker appetite for cruelty. They circled Dub. They kicked the chalk into the drain. One of them stomped hard on Dub's drawing hand. Sarge says if we catch you near the towers again, the tallest one whispered, we will take you somewhere nobody will ever find you. That night, Enichi found Dub curled up behind her market stall. His drawing hand was swollen to twice its normal size. She heated water over a coal pot and gently soaked his fingers. But even with his hand throbbing, Dub reached for a piece of charcoal from the fire and drew the woman's face on the back wall of Enichi's stall. This drawing was more detailed than anything before it. The scar, the warmth in her eyes. Enichi stared at the face and felt the hairs on her arms rise. Who is that? She whispered. She told me I mattered, Dub said. By morning, a university student photographed the drawing. Within 2 days, it had thousands of shares on social media. Then a single comment changed everything. That is Ada Mensah, Chief Kofi Mensah's daughter. The one who died. The story exploded. Kofi saw the post on a Sunday morning. His hands trembled as he zoomed in. He called Ina. Find the boy. Bring him in. Unharmed. But Ina had no intention of following that order. For years, he had been running an extortion ring using Kofi's name. If the boy came close, he might talk about the beatings. So Ina lit. He told Kofi the boy was a hustler, coached by a con man to run an emotional scam on a grieving father. Your daughter, sir, Ina said, leaning close. She is your weak spot. The lie was poison. But Ina needed the boy silenced. Permanently. He paid a phone shop owner on Oxford Street 3,000 Sadies to file a false police report, claiming Dub stole a Samsung phone. The next morning, police officers pulled Dub out from behind the generator. They threw him into a holding cell with grown men who smelled of cheap gin. In that cell, a man with bloodshot eyes saw the pencil behind Dub's ear and reached for it. Dub bit the man's wrist. Hard. Blood ran down knuckles. The man backhanded him across the face, but Dub held on to that pencil with both hands. He would not let go. That pencil was not just wood and graphite. It was her voice. You matter. Enichi heard about the arrest. She dropped her basket of tomatoes and ran barefoot to the station. She begged the officers to release the child. But the officer on duty demanded 500 Sadies for bail. Enichi did not have 500 Sadies. She made 30 Sadies on a good day. But she was not a woman who sat down and cried. She remembered something. There was a church in Adenta. There were photographs. If they existed, they would prove the connection. It took her 2 days to find the church. The pastor, an elderly man with gentle eyes, listened to her story. He opened a dusty filing cabinet. Inside was a thick folder of printed photographs. And right there, in the third picture, was everything. Ada Mensah sitting on a woven mat with Dub on her lap, laughing, holding up the wooden pencil. But that was only half the truth. The other half arrived with Amara, Ada's closest friend. She drove to Kofi's mansion and placed a small leather-bound journal on the table. Ada's handwriting was small and neat. I enrolled Dub in school secretly. He cried because he had never worn clean clothes. He is the child I never had. He carries my pencil and he carries my heart. Kofi closed the journal and pressed it against his face. He wept like a man who had been holding a scream inside his chest for 4 years. He had humiliated the one person on earth his daughter loved like her own child. He drove to the cantonment's police station at 1 a.m. He paid the bail in cash without a word. When they brought Dub out, the boy was shaking. His lower lip was cracked. His hand was purple. He was still gripping the pencil. Kofi dropped to one knee on the dirty floor. I am sorry, he whispered. I am so sorry. Dub looked up at this powerful man kneeling before him and said, She told me you were a good man. She said you were just very, very sad. The next morning, Kofi pulled the CCTV footage. It showed everything. Ina stomping on the boy's hand. Ina handing cash to the shopkeeper. Kofi called Ina to his office. He played the footage on the big screen. The smile slid off Ina's face like water off hot metal. You beat a child my daughter loved, Kofi said. His voice was calm, the calm before a storm. You framed an innocent boy. Ina dropped to his knees and begged. Kofi pressed a button. 2 officers walked in and handcuffed him. The market women who had been paying Ina's fees stood outside and clapped as he was led to the van. That evening, Kofi called a press conference. He stood on the same sidewalk where he had destroyed the drawing. He told the truth. He admitted his grief had turned him into a monster. Then he brought Dub forward. I am enrolling this boy in the finest school in Accra, Kofi announced. I am establishing an art scholarship in my daughter's name. And I am creating a trust fund for every street child in this city. The same crowd that had laughed while Dub was thrown to the ground now cheered until their voices cracked. 6 months passed. Dub flourished. He won a national art competition. But his greatest work came on a quiet Saturday. Kofi walked past the study and found the boy standing before a large canvas. It was Ada. Life-sized. Full-color oil paint. The scar above her eyebrow. The half-smile. Her eyes were so warm and alive that Kofi felt, just for a second, that she was about to speak. I hope I got her right, Dub said. Kofi nodded slowly. You always did. Today, the portrait hangs in the lobby of the Mensa Towers. A brass plaque reads, Ada Mensa. She saw people others looked through. Beside it, in a glass case, rests the wooden pencil stub. The same pencil a dying woman gave to a dying boy. The same pencil he refused to release. Even when a man twice his size hit him for holding on. Every person who walks into the towers stops in front of that portrait. Some weep. Some smile. They understand that what they are looking at is not just a painting. It is proof that love does not end when someone dies. It changes shape. It finds new hands. It carries on. Sometimes, the child sleeping outside your gate is holding something more valuable than everything inside your mansion. A heart that remembers. A pencil that refuses to let go.